And after we've done that, it's the exciting part. We prototype. Anyone know what a prototype is? I'm not going to ask the innovators because they've had to make several.
A prototype is something that we can, that provides how the real thing will work. Yes.
That's good. So a prototype is something tangible, something you can hold, you can feel, you can experience. And these are some examples of prototypes. If you look on the picture below, someone developed a paying system for fuel, but before they developed the real thing, they developed a prototype. And the point of prototyping is that we first start and fail cheaply and fail quickly. Because there's no point in developing a solution on a large scale and then coming back and realizing, actually, it doesn't work. So you're better off using cheap materials, paper, wire, anything you can get your hands on for free, and developing this prototype, giving it to your user, and allowing them to experience the prototype. So the prototype communicates and shows how the idea is transformed into a solution. I'll give you an example of one of our prototypes. Anyone know what it is? What is it? No. You know. Anyone else? You can just shout out. A warehouse, greenhouse. Anything else? A storage room. Okay, I know you all recall the recent Ebola crisis, and during that crisis, we realized, well, you didn't realize because you weren't in the situation, but our team at RUN later on realized that the doctors who were using the tents where Ebola patients were isolated were always hot, they were complaining of the heat, and as a result, they couldn't really address the needs of the patients. They couldn't stay in for too long because on top of all the masking they were wearing, they had to be in this humid temperature and then treat people, and it was just unbearable. So what our team at RUN did is we went through this process of design thinking and developed this, which is called the Epi Tent. The Epi Tent was a reimagined tent, and the whole point of it was to reduce the temperatures inside the tent so that people working in there can actually bear them. And before we even produced the real tent, we began with this prototype. We tested it and actually realized that even without using any air conditioning or anything, the tent reduced the temperatures by 10 degrees C. So it was better atmospheric temperatures for the doctors to work in. So that's an example of a prototype. And after the final step, after we've identified our prototype, is to test it. Obviously, testing gives the user an opportunity to interact with this new solution we've developed. We test to learn how the user experiences it, to refine our point of view, and we have to continuously ask why. Why are the users running out of the tent instead of staying in for as long as they need to? You just have to keep asking why. And the most important thing about testing is we show, we don't tell. If I told you I was an amazing baker, how many of you would believe me? None. But if I made you a cake, you tasted it, you enjoyed it, and then how many of you would believe that I was a great baker? Yeah. So I'm a good baker, by the way. But you have to keep showing them, you don't tell them. And then you create an experience by showing them. You watch how they interact with this product, how they misuse it, because that will also help you. and you encourage comparison. It's good to create as many prototypes as possible so that they can compare which one they can interface with better. And then the process is not finished because we have to keep going back, like I said. We test, and then we find errors, and we prototype again. We test, we find errors, and we prototype again. So it's a repetitive process until we finally have a solution we can work with and that really addresses the needs of our problem. Yeah. And that is design thinking.